Alan Nochumson on this video. Hey, Alan, how are you?
How you doing, Chris?
Awesome. Alan is a very respected attorney in the city of Philadelphia. And Alan actually contacted me saying, Chris, you have a number of investment properties. I know you do. You might want to be proactive about the situation coming up where tenants might have a hard time paying rent. So why don't you kind of let us know a little bit, Alan, what you've done to be proactive with this topic? That's the questions. What should or how should landlords prepare for April and beyond?
Okay, so April 1st, I believe, is next Wednesday, right? So you're going to see, unfortunately, you're going to see a lot of lease defaults, both in the commercial and residential context. So just as a matter of background, our Supreme Court actually issued an order stating that all evictions are stayed through April 3rd. I anticipate that that order is going to be extended after April 3rd as well. So you can't evict, right? So from a practical standpoint, what do you do if you're a landlord? Well, one of the options that you have, and I recently put out a legal alert, I believe today about that, is there's mortgage forbearance options, right? So FHA loans, Fannie Mae loans, Freddie Mac loans, they all have mortgage forbearance programs out there now that as long as you agree not to evict your tenant, whether it's in the single family context or the multifamily context, you'll be able to delay your payments as a property owner with no impact to your credit, and you should confirm that with each lender, as well as potentially no late fees and no interest. So that's the first thing that one should consider when they're owning an investment property, or just as whether it's their personal residence or a second home, is to look at their forbearance options. Then, sorry.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, so step one, pretty straightforward. Contact your lender and say, hey, my tenant's not paying rent. Can I extend this? My mortgage payment, basically, something like that. I guess what if your lender is not one of these large banks, but it's just like a small community bank? I guess you're saying it would depend on what type of loan it is, correct?
That's right. So many of these small banks also are backed by these mortgage buyers like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So you will have to look and see what, if your loan qualifies for these overall forbearance programs. But I'm sure these local banks are also realizing, that this is unique times and that unique circumstances require some type of forbearance under these circumstances. So that's the first thing. Look to see if you can, to like cut the bleeding here in terms of not having to potentially pay mortgage payments, which you may not be able to cover because your tenants are not paying rent.
Gotcha. And then the plan would be maybe the tenant catches up if applicable, and then you catch up with your loan payment per se. Something like that?
That's right.
And then with that, I saw that obviously people can't see it, but you have like a special addendum to lease agreement that perhaps, if something does need to be worked out with your tenant, that you actually have something specific and ready to go for lease agreements, correct? And then with that, what are the provisions that you're recommending to be put in there? I have it in front of me, but maybe just to kind of keep it simple.
All right, so first of all, you want to prevent like scammers, right? Because not everyone's losing their jobs. Not everyone is in a position where they can't afford to pay rent. So from a baseline, you have to ask your tenants, show me proof that there's a significant loss of income and or a loss of employment, right? So for significant loss of income, you would talk actually, or ask your tenant to talk to their employer and maybe get a letter saying, hey, I'm a shift worker, we're losing hours, we're losing income, get a letter, from the actual employer. And if it's unemployment and the loss of employment, show proof that they filed for unemployment compensation and that they were actually approved for unemployment compensation as well. Once you have that proof of loss of income and or loss of employment, then think about entering into a payment plan addendum. So it would be, it'll be twofold, right? So you have back rent that's owed, right? So a couple pools of money that you can think about getting some of that back rent, last month's rent, and potentially even security deposit, right? So if you're dealing with a yearly lease, dealing with someone who's month 2 of a lease as opposed to month 10 of a lease, the circumstances change. But there's an opportunity to at least get last month's rent and apply it either fully or partially towards April's rent. And then in terms of going forward, again, thinking about last month's rent, security deposit in terms of partial payment for the full rent, then them covering the difference, maybe reducing the rent, every single month as well during this period of time. But most importantly, again, the payment plan addendum would only apply if the person, the tenant, shows proof of loss of employment or loss of income. So every single month, what I'm recommending is that when they pay under these different terms and conditions, that the tenant actually shows continued loss of income and loss of employment. Because at that point, if the tenant's not in a bad position, they should pay under the original terms and conditions of the lease.
Gotcha. So, I mean, long story short, I mean, no one's a bad guy. The landlord's not a bad guy. The tenant's not a bad guy or a woman. It's just, be reasonable, communicate, work it out. If someone has proof of loss of income, well, then, that's the big picture. What are your thoughts about, people are obviously receiving, checks, very soon from the government? Should that be part of the conversation, or just kind of let that go for now?
I think it's difficult to attach anyone's governmental benefits, both from a local, state, or federal level. Again, what I would recommend is that just like you collect any payments, right? You're going to collect this directly from the tenant, and I would recommend that would be the case as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's everyone kind of needs to plan for that. I have a good amount of properties with my wife Stephanie and I. We'll be good people, work it out with tenants once we hear from them. And you're right, not everyone fortunately has lost their job and still has income. The conspiracy theory that I'm hearing, it's Zoom video that kind of created the virus. The Zoom stock is soaring. We're all on Zoom right now. Everyone's Zooming. They're a Zoomer. But anyway, so maybe let's just this is the main topic for today, but I know there's a lot of other things, going on. Do you want to talk maybe briefly about the Small Business Relief Act, I guess, and that's pertinent to Philly and PIDC?
Yes, actually, we've been working with several clients. So it's an online form, right? So Philadelphia, the department is through the Department of Commerce and PIDC, where they have allotted $9.25 million to small business relief. So if you have a business that has made up to $500,000 in this past year, 2019, you're allowed to actually apply for a grant of up to $5,000. If your business has made between $500,000 and $3 million, you can apply for a grant of up to $25,000. And if your business has made between $3 million and $5 million, you can get an interest-free loan of up to $100,000. They're all in the same application. They're all online. Mostly what you're going to need is your 2018 tax return. If you don't have your 2019 tax return, then you would have a profit and loss statement. You would show proof of insurance. You're going to have to get a W-9. There's a whole slew of materials that you're going to need. But again, I would recommend that if you have any business in the city of Philadelphia and COVID-19 has detrimentally impacted your business, that you seriously consider applying. Again, it's not often that the city actually gives away quote unquote free money. So, and there's no shame in actually applying for it as well.
So like, let's say a lot of landlords, are small business people, perhaps, if they're at that point, is that something they would do themselves, or would they contact an attorney or their CPA to help them out? Or like, what's your suggestion or recommendation there?
So we actually have been working with clients. We actually, we're trying to be smart about it because listen, these people are desperate, not desperate, but they need the money, right? But at the same time, my services are worth something as well. So we've been working out payment arrangements in terms of flat rates, in trying to just work with people to make sure they can get the necessary resources to actually help them out in these difficult times. Understood.
So I guess you mentioned foreclosure and eviction briefly. Do you want to highlight, what the main update is with that again?
So that's April 3rd. So as the PA Supreme Court issued an order that no evictions could take place through April 3rd. But I anticipate that deadline will be extended by the courts.
Okay. Well, maybe to wrap up, is there any other high level update or two you want to add to this, and maybe how do people contact you, email, website, et cetera, should they need to?
All right. So the only other thing that I would say focus on is like if you have employees to look at like what your obligations as an employer are in both this federal, state, and local levels. And we actually did create a COVID-19 resource center at Nochumson.com where every day we're trying to put out a legal alert on different issues like that, where people need practical advice. The other thing I would focus on beyond the city level, the state has provided through SBA like opportunities to get loans. So that's something to consider. Another thing to focus on is that luckily our tax filings are being delayed by the state, federal, and local levels as well. I believe that's going to be July 15th for the federal level. And I believe in the city of Philadelphia, our taxes are not going to be due for around the same time. I don't know the exact date. So again, to contact me, just do contact at Nochumson, NOCHUMSON.com. And one of either me or another attorney in my law firm will schedule an appointment for a free consultation.
Well, not for nothing, Alan. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on this call. I learned a long time ago, being CEO of the Summers team, it's really important to surround ourselves with top individuals around the city. You certainly are one of those from an attorney standpoint, from zoning and real estate and everything else. So if you don't mind, we might be contacting you again, especially if people get a lot out of this video. Are you okay with that? I'm sure you are.
Oh, definitely. Actually, I was thinking about giving out like maybe office hours on Facebook myself and taking questions. And, we're a community, right? And we're going to be here after COVID-19, and we need to survive as a community and support each other as a community.
Absolutely. We'll all be stronger, after this. So kudos. Thanks again, Alan, for spending some time today. For everyone that's watching this, you have more info that you need, a question, reach out to myself or Alan, about anything related to this. So thanks, and we'll see you soon. Stay strong, stay safe, Philadelphia. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.